Welcome, affiliated listeners, to another episode of the Affiliated Podcast, where we give you all the marketing tips, tricks, secrets that you need to know to be a successful affiliate marketer or just run your offers to affiliates. So I know it's a big promise, and today we have an amazing guest. We're going to be talking about something that I blew my mind the first time we talked about it, but specifically Yahoo DSP. And if you don't know what that is, you should. And if you do, you're going to learn a lot more about it and how to utilize it in your business, whether you're an affiliate, whether you're an offer owner. This is a huge opportunity for a different traffic source you probably don't even understand. So I'm really excited to learn more about it, and I hope you'll be excited to listen to today. Before we introduce our guest, though, let's say hello to the co-host of the show, the amazing, the immaculate, the perfect McChapo, Thomas McMahon. How are you doing today, Thomas?
Good. None of those things were true about me, but I appreciate it. Yeah. No,
well, I'm going to continue.
I know little to nothing about Yahoo DSP, so I'm
yeah.
excited.
It'll be really great. Well, I think for future episodes, we'll continue to build all sorts of legends around your name, Thomas. Will be perfect. But speaking of legends, let us move on to our guest of the day. We have Jordan Swanson. So Jordan is not only super intelligent, super smart, super successful. We had a great conversation at the Supplement Millionaire Mastermind when he shared a lot of this great information with us. We are so excited to have you on today. So excited to have this conversation. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be here, man. I'm really excited about the conversation.
We are as well. Well, with that, let's jump into it. And actually, so just so people know, we're going to step forward and then we'll step back a little bit beforehand. Just tell the people, Thomas, even remind myself, what is the Yahoo DSP? What does that mean? Why is it important? And not even that, just what is it? Just tell us what it is. And then we'll go from there.
Sure. So when we talk about DSPs, first of all, I think it's important to understand DSP stands for demand side platform. And it's in the programmatic world. And when you start talking about programmatic media buying, it can get really complex. There's a lot of platforms. But in essence, programmatic media buying is just using real-time bidding across multiple channels. I mean, Google's, programmatic, Facebook's programmatic in essence. When I mention a DSP or whatever, we're talking about using this, accessing multitude of channels. I mean, over 50, 60 different channels or exchanges that we can use in one interface to be able to buy media. So Yahoo really had, they've got their Yahoo DSP. And then most people, when they're thinking about Yahoo, they're familiar with it with Yahoo Gemini.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what you guys are familiar with. Yeah. You've heard of Gemini and everything. So Gemini is their native platform. It's kind of interesting. There's been a lot of changes happening at Yahoo, and they were looking at transitioning Gemini out and making everyone go to the DSP.
Like anyone that's ever dated Gemini, they want to get rid of it and stop.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And so they were looking at doing that, but we were just talking to our reps last week, and now they may not be phasing out as much. It's a really interesting. Lots going on at Yahoo right now. But in essence, so what the reason with the Yahoo DSP and why we've used it, I launched my agents. We launched Reachfire in 2016. And we originally were doing Facebook and Google, like every other agency out there. I then saw a big need in native. And so we really kind of pivoted the agency to focus on native. And then I got into programmatic native, saying, wow, there's all these third-party audiences, all this data we can access and apply to native platforms. And that kind of then led us into just programmatic in general. And then it led us into the Yahoo DSP eventually. Okay. And the Yahoo DSP, one of the reasons I love the Yahoo DSP versus other DSPs like the Trade Desk and others, is because they've got incredible first-party data. They're a walled garden. And so as we're kind of entering an era where cookies are going away, we're having all this stuff happen with third-party data, I really feel it's becoming more and more critical if you're buying media to be buying within one of the walled gardens. And Yahoo's one of the walled gardens, like Google, Facebook. Yahoo has hundreds of millions of users. Yahoo sites that they own all of Yahoo properties are the most visited sites in the world. A lot of people don't know that, but all the properties that they own, from Yahoo Finance, from all the different Yahoo, from Huffington Post, from TechCrunch, all these that they have ownership that they have in, So there's a lot of data that's happening that's going to their site. And so we can access that data, plus all their emails, and there's a lot that we can use. We can access that all and be able to create these highly targeted audiences and use native as well as display and connected TV, all these different things to be able to get in front of the audience. And that's how we do it through the DSP.
Well, that was awesome. Like, definitely lots of questions. I think that's why we have a lot to discuss, which is really exciting. But before we jump into that, because I do think there's some really interesting things and really love what you said. First, the fact that I hadn't thought about Yahoo as a most visited website or having access to those, but remembering that Yahoo owns more than just what says Yahoo on it. So that was good.
Yeah.
But before we jump
Engadget and TechCrunch, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know. Even Huffington, I had no idea. But again, I don't think you pay attention to that part of it. I just pay attention to anyone that has a Yahoo email and think they must be 60. So that's, but before we jump into that, I actually just was really curious. So 2016, you started the agency. If you just give us a very high level kind of 10,000 view, like what were you doing before you started an agency, kind of got in the media buying realm, and then kind of led yourself to here today? What started that journey?
So I got into media buying in 2005, and I had a company. It was, and it's going to seem really random, but I started a financial, a leasing company back in around 2005, 2006. And it was called Swanson Financial. And we did heavy equipment leasing. Oh. And don't ask me why we got into it. I actually knew that there was a lot of money in leasing. I had done some stuff with that. I was like, this would be cool. I want to learn this and do this. So we went to New York and learned a lot about leasing and partnered with some banks and stuff like that. So anyway, I started the company, and I realized at the time that I needed to learn how to do marketing in 2005. And so I started reading Dan Kennedy's stuff and starting to learn, with magnetic marketing and all those other things. And then I started doing Google ads and starting to play around with that. And that's where so that's kind of the whole marketing avenue. And then in 2008, when the market crashed, being in the finance, my business went under. My first business went under, and it was a really difficult time. And I was fortunate enough then to actually get a job in medical device. So I did medical device sales. And then from there, I went into medical device marketing and then global marketing. And because of that, I started, learning again a lot more about about media buying and marketing in general and all this stuff. And so I'd gotten to the point where I wanted to start another company. And I'm just an entrepreneur. It's just who I am, right? And so the medical device company I was working with at the time, I said, look, here's all. I was doing all kinds of stuff for them with lead generation, stuff that medical device companies were not even touching. We're not even doing anything with, because they're usually that field is usually 3 or 4 years behind everything. Mm-hmm. And so we were doing some pretty groundbreaking stuff for medical device. And I said, look, I'd like to start my own company, my own agency, and you guys can be my first client. And that's what happened. So they became our first client, and I launched the agency, and then the rest is history.
That's awesome. That is super awesome. So sorry, so I figured it'd be good to have that. Now, Thomas, I've been commandeering so much of this. So let's circle back to the DSP, the exciting things we talked about there. What questions do you have for Jordan around what you shared so far?
I'm still a little confused on the difference between, say, DSP and native. Like, where is it? Is it kind of the same? Is it different? Like, how is it different?
No, it's a great question. So DSPs include different formats. So DSPs include, you can do native, you can do banner ads, you can do connected television, you can do radio. All that's within the one user face within the DSP.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so what we developed a system we call panoptic stacking within our agency. And it's our methodology for buying media programmatically with native. So what we use, and so that was one of the big reasons with the Yahoo DSP, is that with other DSPs, I'm going to mention the Trade Desk. They're one of the big DSPs out there, and we use them. It's a great platform, but we found that when we were running on Trade Desk and buying native on Trade Desk, the results were just not as good as when we started buying native through Yahoo, through the Yahoo DSP. And because it's, Yahoo DSP, again, because of the data sets that they have, and then just how native works within Yahoo, that's part of it, the results were significantly better than buying programmatically through like the trade desk. So what we do is when we bring on clients, we launch them first with native and maybe native and native video ads. And then we use, as part of the DSP, we'll do retargeting with banners and videos and things like that. So we'll launch with native, we'll drive them there because we can get just great engagement on native. And then we'll use all these other channels to be able to push them down the funnel. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, Thomas?
I think so. Yeah. So is Gemini rolled into DSP? Is it like kind of part of it? Okay.
Yeah, it's part of it. Now, the DSP gives you additional things. And it's funny because I'll be honest, this has been like we don't talk much about this. Okay. The stuff that I'm going to share with you guys, we don't talk a lot about it because it's kind of been our dirty little secret. We just we don't want everyone to be doing it, but you get to a point like it's fine. I mean, people can go and sign up for the DSP and get going. It's programmatics. It is more complicated. I mean, to be honest, it is more complicated because there's so many levers you can pull when you're doing your optimizations. But the thing why we love versus buying media through Yahoo Gemini. So because most of our traffic is native that we run. But the reason we like to buy it through the DSP versus, through Gemini is because you have access to so much more data than you would have going through Gemini. So we can create predictive audiences in the DSP based off of customer lists or conversion pixels, whereas Gemini does lookalike audiences. And those are different. Predictive audiences significantly outperform lookalike audiences. So we can create, now if someone's using Gemini, if you have a rep, you can ask your Gemini rep to create these same audiences and they can transfer it into Gemini. So they can do that, but we create those ourselves within the DSP. Also in the DSP, we get direct access to all their targeting segments. So for an example, one of the segments we love to use is we like to use competition emails. So what this is, and it's pretty phenomenal, is that we can go with our client and say, all right, who are your biggest competitors? They can give us a list of all their competitors. We can put those names into a part of the DSP. Not the names, but the domains. And then we can target ads to people who get emails from those domains.
Wow. Oh, what? So, so not just visitors to that domain, but actual people on their list who are getting emails from competitor.com. Whoa. Yeah. That's cool.
So they receive, so they're on their list and they receive emails so you can target all your competition.
Wow, that's awesome.
So anyone who's on their list, you can target them. Another killer thing you can do in the DSP.
So wait, just go back on that. Yeah. So could you also do that for, say, if you knew there were bloggers or content creators that had email lists that you would want to access, but maybe you couldn't. So instead you put like, hey, well, I want everyone that's getting an email from, Joe Rogan or JRE or something like that, and find out those domains for those big email lists. And you could target everyone that's receiving that essentially.
Yeah.
If they're on Yahoo. That's super cool. That's super cool.
Another cool thing they have is they have purchase receipt emails. So Yahoo scans every email that goes into it. Anonymous. It's all anonymous, obviously, but everything gets scanned. And so if you get a receipt from a company, we can then target people who receive receipt with purchase values over a certain amount within the DSP.
Wow.
So this is like old, what Facebook used to be able to do with the amount of data. It's kind of like it's still there within Yahoo. You can still do, you couldn't even do that extent in Facebook, but there's so much first party data you can use. So for example, if I have a beauty client that wants to target people who shop at the beauty store, the retail store, let's say Ulta, or something like that. You can target people who receive emails from Ulta. And I can go in there and say, I want to target individuals who have spent at least $400 in this year in makeup from Ulta.
So you're looking for my wife, is what you're telling me.
That's right. That's right.
Right for her.
So you can do it. You can create those kind of those segments with Yahoo. And that's why, again, I don't talk a lot about it because maybe I shouldn't even be sharing this on your podcast. Kyle convinced me to come on. Maybe I shouldn't be, but
that's really cool.
It's a really, and there's even more. It's a really, really powerful tool.
And so so you can do that to anyone that's using a Yahoo owned email, right? So if it was, so it's probably a segment of that brand's overall list. That's right. Would you then create like predictive audiences on the people that you're cooking through that? So it's like, you can start to expand from there. So is that how you're kind of layering from that? Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. You can create those, based off of that. And so, it gives you a lot of options. So you can take, like you said, Thomas, you can take a smaller list and then create a predictive audience or a lookalike audience off of that list that you have in there.
Well, I love the idea of predictive versus looks like, right? So you're taking the powerful data tools that used to be enriched, like on Facebook, like you said, through third-party data, but now third-party data is tough. It's a lot harder to get that data without having pixels and cookies, across all your websites and across all these websites, right? So, I think it's really interesting, and then also really powerful because we've seen that obviously Apple and these companies they have tons of data, and they really are trying to basically keep you inside of their data world, like you said at the beginning, that behind their wall. But when the wall's that powerful, it seems like you could really, really take great advantage of it. So it's just. It definitely, I imagine it's almost like you're just getting experience in what inevitably will probably happen with Apple and with Google. Like they're heading towards these things. So it makes sense to kind of maybe be ahead of that more than anything. So
yeah, and that's the thing with programmatic. And one of the things that was so powerful with programmatic, a few years ago, before everything started happening with cookies, is that you had all these different data sources that you could access, like Blue Kai and all these other DMPs that you could access, these data sources, and you would use that then across all the different channels. But the problem is those sources have become less and less reliable. I mean, you can still target, stuff from Experian, or, you can still pull in a lot of different data sets. I mean, there's a ton of them that you can use that are all third party. Sometimes they work okay, but we rarely use them because they're just not matching as good as they used to with the user. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I've heard from a lot of that stuff is it's just because they don't have the reach that they used to have, the data is just slowly eroded over time. It's not getting refreshed in the same way.
Well, exactly. And I think one of the big reasons, when you look at the new partnership with Taboola and Yahoo that's going to be launching later this year, I think the big reason Taboola wanted this partnership, and Yahoo wanted too. I mean, obviously it was mutual. I mean, they both have massive amounts of, they've got a lot of publishers and everything like that. So, but I think Taboola, I think they want that walled garden data. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they want to be able to access to it. And so what I look forward to, I think we're on the beta test for it later this year, but we'll be buying Taboola inventory through Yahoo. And what that should allow us to do is to be able to take the Yahoo first party data and apply it to Taboola, which hasn't been done before.
Wow.
And that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
So is Taboola, will you be able to access Taboola's publishers via the DSP?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
It'll all be within the Yahoo DSP. Yeah.
Well, if it was a secret now, and people were like, that's kind of cool. This probably really blew up that opportunities for the secrets. Right? Like, anyone that's buying at least Taboola traffic right now, because that would just potentially, if true, if it works, right, that could really unlock all sorts of amazing data points for your Taboola ad buying. That's great.
I mean, you can imagine if you could run Taboola with Facebook-like targeting, that could be a game changer.
That wouldn't suck, yeah.
Yeah, right? Because right now, Taboola, when we run Taboola, you've got third-party data sets you can use. So you can do your targeting on Taboola, but it's all third-party data, and it's not it's really hit or miss. That's why most people do run a network. When you're running Taboola, you might as well just do that than paying the additional fee to get the data in. But so what I'm going to be curious, and I don't know the details yet, is I know from a Yahoo side we'll be accessing Taboola data. Taboola sites. But I don't know if you're buying through Taboola, if you'll be able to access the Yahoo data.
Gotcha.
I don't fully understand. I don't know yet. I haven't heard anything. It could be that they'll now in Taboola, you'll have a new interface, a new section where, you'll be able to access all the data sets from all the stuff from Yahoo. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. So
that's really intriguing. How does the compliance process work with the Yahoo DSP right now? Like for the creatives you're running and the landers you're pointing to?
Great question.
It's a nightmare. And I'll tell you, like the bane of my existence, like Yahoo's policy team is horrible. It is horrible.
So here's the wall part of the garden. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I think it's worse. I think it's worse than any policy team I've ever worked with.
Really?
And the reason why their policy team doesn't listen to this, right?
We just lost all our listeners. Like, oh, okay, well, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. So the challenge, they've got a small policy team. They do. It's not that big, and so they're because they've had a lot of layoffs at Yahoo too, just recently. All right, so like our whole account team that we have for us, multiple people were just laid off to be at a few months ago, and so they've had a lot of layoffs. And I think again that's why I think the partnership with Taboola is going to be good for them, and I think for everyone hopefully. But their policy is rough. It is, and it's you'll get something approved, and then they will disapprove it later on after you've spent so much money. I mean, and that happens in other networks. I get it, but it's just a lack of consistency. That's some of the hard. That's one of the challenges we run into now, and that they don't have and for example, to me, it's like if you pause an ad and if you then turn it back on, it shouldn't have to go through policy again if they've already approved it.
Yeah.
Or we'll have ads that we've specifically gone through with their policy team and gotten approved, and then suddenly it's on to a new person later on that now disapproves everything, even though we had worked with their policy team very specifically. Now, I'll say the good thing about Yahoo policy, especially if you're on the DSP side, is that they'll tell you generally what's not working. What you need to change to get it approved. So they'll tell you. So that is really helpful. It's not like with Google or, where it's just kind of this big black box. No. So they'll give you those insights. So that really does help. But then it sucks is that you make all the changes that they tell you to, and then a different policy person reviews it and it doesn't matter. It's just, that's the frustrating thing about it. But
yeah,
at least they'll work with you. You're not going to get banned. You're not going to, unless you're doing something egregious, but you're not going to get banned on it.
Gotcha. And then how much do you have to be spending to kind of get a rep there? Or is that how that process works?
Yeah. So to get onto the DSP, you've got to be spending a minimum. They say between 15 to 20K a month.
Okay.
To get onto the DSP, it's right around there. And then at that point you'll get an account team assigned to you.
Gotcha.
Are you invited? Like if you're spending that much on Gemini, do you get invited up to the big leagues on the DSP? Like how does that is an application process?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they're doing it now because again, they were kind of fading it out with Gemini, but now I don't think they are anymore. But they usually won't invite you over to the DSP if you're on Gemini. You'd have to request it.
Okay.
You have to go on and fill out a form to get on to the DSP.
Hence the more reason it becomes a bit of a secret, right? You got to go out there and seek for it to find it kind of thing.
It's more, I mean, it's not like you can just go sign up for an ad account like you can with all these other platforms. It's a little bit more complex and you have to be spending a little bit more, but anyone can do it. It's just when you get into the DSP, like I said, there's a lot of learning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different levers you can pull. I mean, if you're using the DSP for banner ads, you can get really granular with the levers you're pulling for optimization. You know,
Like,
a
you
lot
give you
more
just an
than you can with
example
native.
of like how granular you could go, just kind of spitball off the top of your
Yeah,
head.
I mean, so Yahoo, like in Gemini, the DSP uses bid multipliers. So you can bid multiply on everything from ads, from weather. So for example, if you notice that people are buying more when it's cloudy outside,
Oh, wow.
you can actually use bid multipliers and bid down on sunny days or bid up on those. And so when you're doing,
And would that be regional too? So you'd be able to say, in this region, we know that it's cloudy, so, you know, bid down essentially.
it would basically, well, it would look at wherever you're targeting, whatever's inside that. So in DSPs, they call, instead of ad groups, they call them line items.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, yeah. So you're using the line items. You're going and making all your modifications on the line where you're doing your targeting. So you can bid down on states or cities. You can bid down on you just, it's really cool, but it's also, you have to be really careful, because if you're pulling too many levers, you will over optimize.
Yeah.
And then you'll kill the campaign.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's like everyone on Facebook and Google right now kind of like target things pretty, maybe not Google, but Facebook, they target things pretty wide, right? Like really wide audience, and let Facebook's algorithm figure out, and let the creative speak of the segmentation a bit. It sounds like on Yahoo, you can go back to what it used to be and go really specific with who you want to target and when.
You can. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say for people, if they're looking at doing it on the native side, there's not a lot. I mean, there are obviously bid levers that you can use, but there's not as much. So it's not as complicated. It's just when you get into the full part of the DSP where it can get more complicated, you know, with your bidding strategies on everything.
Gotcha.
So just to, there's one specific area that we haven't talked about yet that I did want to talk about under the DSP, because I just find it really interesting, probably because I watch too much TV, but it is the connected TV option. So that's essentially my understanding. That's where you could get in on actual interfaces, UIs for TVs, and be running banner ads, which sounds really interesting to me, because what a great ad and what a great real estate that gets exposed to so many people. Granted, a lot of different people at a lot of different times, might be hard to catch the right one at the right time. So I'm just kind of curious how you found success there. Has that been a good channel for you? How you utilized it? And just you could talk a little bit more about it, because this TV nerd is very curious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, connected TV can be obviously really powerful. You know, it can be a really powerful channel to use. I mean, so for example, in the DSP, you could go in and say, okay, I'm going to target these different connected TV channels, you know, whether it's Roku or whatever. You can go through and create, you know, target different channels, and then you can apply a lot of the first party data to connected television. And then you can also, what we like to use connected TV for a lot is retargeting.
Yeah.
You know, so when someone visits our site, we can then show them ads, if, you know, on TV. And that really helps build that brand. You know, you just have to remember with connected television that you should always have like a QR code on your commercial,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a direct response marketer. I mean, that's, you know, you can have that. You can have your 800 numbers on there. I mean, just kind of like with infomercials and things like that. When you're doing any kind of direct response, you know, incorporate a QR code into the actual commercial. You have to be very specific too. So if you've got YouTube video ads that are working well, you can edit them to run on connected TV and have success.
Do you have change like the aspect ratio for them?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, you have. There's a few things that Yahoo lets you know. Like, you just have to have, the bit rate has to be a certain amount. The aspect ratio, you know, 16:9, you know,
Yep.
your normal widescreen. And then they have to be exact in terms of their time. So it has to be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're 1 second over, you can't run. So you have to edit it exactly. It has to finish by that time.
Gotcha. That's
Exactly.
good to know.
But no, it's yeah, but it can be really powerful. Because a lot of people aren't using them. I mean, the big brands are doing it now. I mean, so in your CPMs, for connected TV, depends on the channel and everything like that. But you're averaging around $25 to $50 CPMs right now for connected TV.
So connected TV, that's like through like the streaming services we use and stuff, right? Like if we're going to surf something on Hulu or Roku and things like that.
That's right.
Is there? I've seen a lot of like alcohol brands use it because there's the advertising guidelines are less strict, right? You can actually show someone drinking versus, what they can't do on traditional TV. So, no, it seems like it's a really. Would you consider it kind of a blue ocean right now for people, or is it you need a big budget because the big brands are jumping in now?
You can test it. It depends on. I mean, you can test it for really low budgets. I mean, even if you were to go directly with Hulu, I mean, you can run Hulu through the DSP, but if you go directly with Hulu, they're not requiring a lot, to get started, and on the DSP, the only time it requires a lot is if you decide to. Yahoo has a partnership with Verizon Fios and Dish Network, and I think they're doing something with DirecTV. But those are the two right now. So you can actually use connected TV on live television through those two platforms.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
But it does come with you've got to be able to put down at least $100K to run it. Yeah. So it's not like you can just like on normal connected TV through the DSP, you can run it. You got a budget of $4,000 or $5,000. You can do stuff. I mean, you can run it and you're fine.
Yeah. I've seen it seems like some of those smaller cable networks, I guess you'd call them, or kind of streaming networks. Like I saw Buy Optimizer's ad on Root TV, which is kind of like a Northwest kind of sports network. I was watching a Gonzaga basketball game.
I was going to say, this feels like a Gonzaga moment for sure.
It is. Yeah, I was watching a Gonzaga game this winter, and then like Buy Optimizer's ad popped up. I was like, oh my gosh. Because why are you freaking out about the supplement ad? I was like, that's a client. That's so cool. Yeah.
Well, and I imagine there's got to be a huge opportunity because I think anyone that streamed live television or even streamed something that, they didn't pay for and so they had to watch ads. So I didn't have the right tier of Hulu, right? But, the ads are so redundant. It almost makes them really effective to find anything new, just to not listen to the same, like, Better Works ad. I'm like, if I have to hear about getting hired again, I'm just going to quit everything. TV. Or whatever it is. It feels like you get like the same Taco Bell ad. Like you go from like loving Pete Davidson to hating him all through whatever episode you might be binging or series you're binging. Right. So, but all that being said means that they don't have, it seems like the inventory is not being fully occupied. There's a lot of space there, which feels like a great opportunity to get a lot of repetitive eyeballs staring. Not a lot of competition. You're going to look new and fresh because the big brands have been advertising there for a while, the same damn ads. That's so right. I think it could be a great opportunity. But like I said, if it's live TV, that's not going to be cheap. Yeah, I would argue probably, I bet for the premium, the eyeballs you get, that might be some of the best ROI you're going to get on a live TV campaign.
It could be.
For that cost, yeah.
The nice thing about connected TV ads is that they're generally not skippable. I mean, which sucks as a consumer, right? Like if I'm watching something on Discovery Channel, whatever, we're streaming on one of the apps, and then it's like you're stuck, and you've got all of a sudden you look and there's a little timer and you've got 3 minutes in the countdown. You're like, oh geez, but you can't skip it, so you are kind of forcing them to watch it. I mean, they could leave the room or whatever, I guess, but the thing with connected TV, you have to remember is that every person, I mean, when you're watching TV nowadays, everyone has their cell phone with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, when my wife and I are watching TV, I always tease her. I'm like, are you ever going to look up and watch the show? I'm like, put your phone away, let's watch. I mean, I do it too. But I don't know. Don't you guys? I mean, every time generally you have your phone out. I don't know. It's just our attention span is so horrible today, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's, I think it's just, somebody described it's not attention span. It's just how quickly we could process and make decisions. Yeah. Because we're flooded with so much more. But I think what's interesting is still the forced exposure, right? It changes the way that you could write an ad. Because if we think about it, like I have more time, even though you might not be paying attention. To be honest, if we are talking about traditional TV and traditional, advertising like commercials, even if you were there, you'd find something else to pay attention to, right? You know, eventually DVR came in, you just like pause your TV, wait for 10 minutes to start your live TV thing so you could skip through the commercials, right? At least that's what our family started doing pretty quickly.
That's right.
Yeah,
like some streamers have even stopped, like they've dissuaded that behavior. Like Fubo is like a streaming service I've used, and it's weird. Like if I'm watching something live and I'm trying to pause and do that kind of thing, it almost doesn't let me. I don't know if it's just like a bug on that side or if they're just like, nope, you're going to watch ads because that's how we're serving it.
Yeah. And I think it's, again, like you're right. I think that's why the QR code, finding ways, I think if you just played with that, you played with knowing that I have probably seen the same ad. Like I remember we almost gave up watching Alone. We were watching on the History Channel because they kept serving ads up, but it was like 3 ads for a whole season of the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, So I think coming in with something that even fed into that. Hey, it's not another ad. Hey, guess what? You've probably heard me 5 times now, right? Something like that where you could kind of play with that. I bet you could make some big headway. And I would argue the fact that the big brands continue to spend there makes me think that it's working. Also, the fact that I have bought something from a commercial on that ad before, like after the 6th time of it telling you at 10 o'clock that you should get Taco Bell, you might just go get it. You might, I don't have enough diarrhea, so I should probably be good. So it's just, I've seen that stuff work, and it's just super interesting to have access to it. And then I imagine pairing it up with that competitor information. So, all the emails they're getting, now what they're watching, where their TV is. And now, like I said, that through that retargeting, I think it'd be so powerful. Such a different place to see that at. I really, really think it's cool.
I mean, yeah, you can imagine. I mean, if you're a small company and you want to really start establishing a brand, and I think that's one of the challenges. I think, a lot of companies are like, branding sucks, or I don't want to do branding. I'm just all performance. But branding it really does. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference for companies. It takes time. It takes time to work, right? But you can imagine if you visit a site and then, you see some video ads on TV for them, the average consumer is gonna be like, man, this is a big company, or I'm seeing it on TV, where they don't know that anyone can do it, right? I mean, it's not expensive.
True. You get that credibility. It's like
you get that you get that credibility that can make a big difference in building your brand. Yeah. And so from a retargeting standpoint, I think everyone should be incorporating it in there. Just getting it out there. From a performance, if you're just doing it for cold, CTV can definitely work for cold and just going out for your initial contact, but you just have to make sure you've got the right things in place to get to make it work for response. But no, commercials work. I mean, obviously,
yeah, it's like
we all know that. I mean, they do work, and we've all bought stuff off of commercials or seen something like, oh yeah, that's a cool. That's a good idea.
Have you all watched anything on Amazon's new free streaming thing, the Freevee?
Free is it? Yeah, I have. Yeah, we did watch.
I don't even know what you're talking
and
about.
The ads,
that's a
on
channel
there
you can target.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching some of the ads on there. I'm like, are these AI generated, like obscure Amazon products? Like, I'm like, what is this? Like, but some are good, but some are just like the most niche little Amazon product getting a 15 minutes or a 15-second spot kind of thing. But yeah, the ads being served on those platforms. But it just goes to show that like so many people are getting into the streaming, and there's a lot of opportunity to kind of insert ads into these different streaming platforms.
Well, and I think especially if you want to get younger, but not too young, right? So I think one of the areas, I think like 35 to 45, it's probably a really nice streaming demographic, even like 30 to 45. So if you're in that vertical, you have something that's demonstrative, or if you're just retargeting, it could be incredibly powerful. This is really just a selfish desire to get people to get different ads in my streaming services. Like that's really all I want. I just want to but no, I think it's super powerful. And there's one of the things I know when you first mentioned it had my brain, just the wheels started turning along with everything you shared with before, which I think leads to the natural transition of a lot of people are probably listening to this thinking, great, I want to jump in, or more importantly, wow, this sounds really cool, but I don't want to start that. That sounds complicated. It sounds hard. And the great thing is they don't necessarily have to. If you're wanting to take advantage of this, but you don't necessarily know how or want to start it yourself, they could actually just work with you, right? Directly, Jordan.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about how, if people wanted to work with you, what that process would look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So for us, to work with us, you've got to be able to spend a minimum of at least $20K a month. We don't work with anyone less than that, because it takes time and it takes money to be able to figure out something to make it work. I mean, anyone who's run native knows that your budget's gonna need to be bigger on native, because you've got so many publishers you need to test and all the different, there's a lot that needs to happen. And I will say this, so a minimum of that, you've got to have a proven product. You don't want to come to us if you haven't proven that your product sells online. I mean, you really want to have some proven funnels. Now the funnels can work very differently, just like how a native funnel and a Facebook, they all perform differently. But you want to have a basis. You want to be able to have some stuff, and you want to come in and look at it as a long-term play, because I think it takes. I mean, I tell people, look, after you've got to give it around 60 days to really start to get a chance to really fully optimize, to get it to where it needs to be. And depends on how many channels you want to access. So, for example, someone can come to us and we can do native primarily with them, and then do some banner ads for retargeting or some CTV on there. But then there's other things. I mean, you can do through the DSP digital billboards. I mean, there's a lot you can do. So,
wait, so you're talking like digital billboards, like brick and mortar billboards on the side of the street that have digital interfaces. You could just like plug in across the country.
Yeah.
And wow, that is super cool.
Yeah. So if you're making a big branding play, you can do digital. It's called digital out of home. So you can do billboards. You can do there's Coke machines and other stuff like that have ads on it. You can tap into that through the DSP. So you can have ads. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. This is programmatic is what the Fortune 500 companies are using. I mean, that's they all use it. And so it gives you access, to now. Digital out of home isn't going to be a strong performance player. I mean, but it's really going to be there to build your, credibility, to build your brand. I mean, so it's pretty amazing. I mean, they can, with digital, the tech they have though, and it's kind of scary, is that they can get an accuracy based on your cell phone data.
I was just going to ask if they can match that. Yeah.
They can get it. I think it's within 5 meters of something. So if you go you can actually set up campaigns to target brick and mortar stores. So what happens is you can target people who have gone into, let's say I've got a fitness product. I can target people who go into Planet Fitness based on the apps that they have on their phone. And you can go in now. So you can run a campaign and say, anyone who's been to Planet Fitness over the last 30 days, at least once, I want to show them ads. And you can do that in the DSP.
That is so cool.
We're very close to a future where everyone's going to see different ads out in the wild, right? Just walking by displays and it's going to show different things for different people.
That like was that Minority Report? What movie was that where they were? Yeah. Like,
have you seen that? There's an airport. I can't remember which one. Where it's like it has a dynamic. It'll show you your flight. It can work up to like 100 people. It's a giant screen. And once you get through security, it shows you your flight details and which gate to go to. So everyone's looking at the same screen, but everyone sees a different thing.
Oh, wow. I mean, I would just think to use your phone and the app, but
it's this new tech that they're kind of highlighting for this airport there. But imagine that on billboards, right? Or in a sports stadium where you can show that person's going to see this ad, right? I mean, that's getting a little futuristic.
I imagine really the spousal debates that could cause.
The
amount of divorces that happen because somebody saw their spouse's ad and they're like, "What the hell?" So, I'm in the wrong demographic. I'm sorry. No, that's amazing. It's really great stuff. So, and what we'll do is we'll be sure to get the link to your website too for people to get in contact if they feel that they reach kind of those minimums. That spend sounds good. But really, this has been a fantastic conversation. I know we're getting close to time. I don't want to keep you too long. But just want to say thanks so much, Jordan. This is really, really super insightful. I think it's always great when you get to talk not only about new things, but really a new traffic channel that isn't necessarily new, but feels new, feels different. And definitely something we are not hearing people utilize. So as much as I know it pains you to bring out your secret just a little bit, I think it's really powerful. And I really encourage all the offer owners out there, if those spend constraints sound great to you, you're like, yes, this is perfect, you need to be talking with Jordan and his team. This could really unlock a powerful thing in your business. Really, really huge stuff that I think you're going to see more efficiencies, more acquisition, and definitely, I think, some really powerful brand playing, or even just retargeting and getting those conversions to a new level. It's really amazing stuff. So, Thomas, any other last questions for Jordan, or anything you want to mention about this crazy good conversation?
I could tap into your genius for a while, Jordan, if you let me. It's this is fascinating stuff, and just love to hear about new traffic channels that people can be exploring, whether it's through you or kind of going and learning more about themselves. Because yeah, we're all used to the big ones, the Facebooks, the TikToks, the native, right, is a big air quotes, in YouTube, but these, I'm going to say niche, which is kind of silly because obviously you've highlighted that this is a huge traffic source and it covers a large swath of the internet. But the fact that, there's still first party data out there that you can tap into that's incredibly powerful. And you can go back to Facebook of 3+ years ago, right, and kind of get that kind of targeting is pretty powerful stuff. So thanks for highlighting all this for us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah. And anything you want to mention before we let you get going, or any other final statements, then we'll let you get going, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, no, thanks. Hey, it's been great coming on and talking with you guys. And it's just for people to know there's a lot of traffic opportunities out there. There's a lot that's out there and it's available for you. And so you're not confined to just one or two channels. So take advantage of it.
Beautiful. Well, everyone, again, thanks so much for the time. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment, tell us what you'd like to hear next. What are the questions you're asking yourself? Maybe it's the people that you'd like to hear from. We do listen. We do take that feedback and go out and try and get you exactly what you want to grow your business today, tomorrow, and long into the future. So with that, though, until next time, what do we tell the people, Thomas?
Happy scaling, everybody.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Have a good one. Bye.